One of the standard issues that is always involved whenever one reads and studies Torah is that everything matters, everything counts. In the books of the Torah, no word is superfluous. No matter how seemingly insignificant the word, even redundancies are considered to be of incredible import to the person who is studying, learning Torah. One example occurs in this week's Torah reading, which is called Vayakhel. At the beginning of the reading, we're submerged in a sense of, didn't I see this before? Didn't I read this before? About the Mishkan? In fact, the past couple of weeks, the Torah readings were about the creation of the tabernacle in the wilderness by Moses, the word of Moses, the dimensions of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, how it was to be constructed. And yet we find ourselves at the outset of this week's Sidra rereading similar passages, and one can't help but wonder why the redundancy, why the repetition. And the sages remark that this is purposeful, because the difference between the readings that we've had before and the outset of this week's Torah reading is significant. Everyone is involved. This week it is very clearly demarcated that there is not a single individual of the house of Israel is to be excluded from the process of the creation of this dramatic edifice in the middle of the people. So much so that we are told that every Jew, no matter how rich, no matter how poor, was obliged to give a half a shekel to the creation of this Mishkan, this dwelling place of the Lord, so that everybody would feel that they had some impact in its creation. It's an enduring legacy. There's another aspect of time that is also connected with this week's Torah reading. We understand that when Moses came down from the mountain the second time, the first time he came down bearing the tablets that were inscribed by the finger of God, they were smashed when he saw the Jews dancing around the golden calf. He went up a second time, and this time brought down with him a second set of tablets that were a duplicate of the first, with one exception, that this one was written by the hand of Moses, not the hand of God. That God, as it were, dictated the words and Moses wrote them down. But there's something even more powerful and significant than that. That when Moses came down from the mountain the second time, this signified that the Jewish people had been forgiven. That the corpus of Israel that had sinned at the golden calf, their sin had been erased. They'd been forgiven and re-embraced by the Lord God. Now this is also powerful because the day when this took place, when Moses pleaded with God and God granted absolution to Moses and the people of Israel, was Yom Kippur, that dramatic and powerful day of atonement. But when Moses succeeded in coming down and translating what had happened to the people, what had occurred to him with God and the forgiveness, that was the day after Yom Kippur. The symbolism of that timing should not be set aside, but rather focused on, because what it means is that it's not just Yom Kippur or an event in our life which is supposed to change the course of our life just in that moment, but rather it's how we live out our life as a result of that significant event for the rest of our days. It's not Yom Kippur, it's the day after, and the day after Yom Kippur, and the day after, that we should feel ourselves so changed on the inside that that becomes reflected by what we do outside. Vayakhel, which is the name of the Sidra for this week, is when all of Israel gathered together. And they gathered together for three powerful purposes. One, to contribute as an aggregate, as a body of people, towards the construction of the Mishkan, that would be the dwelling place of God, and each one of them owned it. Each one of them had a part in it. When we create something, when we contribute to the creation of something, we feel like we are a partner in it. We have a stake in it. We have ownership in it. We take pride in it. And the second thing, which is very powerful about this Sidra, is the fact that The reconciliation that takes place between a person and God is not a moment, but it's something that should be life-affirming, life-changing. And when those significant changes do occur, we become transformed for now and for the rest of our lives. That perhaps is the great revelation that is contained in this week's Torah reading, all about what we do, how we talk to God, how we respond to God, how we treat each other, and of course, the dramatic power of change. Shabbat Shalom.